Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mindset 101. We are, as I tend to be, just a smidgen early to let people have time to hop on, to let people kind of settle in, and also to remind us to have our notebooks, our pens, pencils, and our attention at the ready. I know a lot of times we like to multitask. We like to do things, listen to podcasts, listen to teachings while we're doing something else. And that's not always the most effective for some brains. Some brains need that, other brains, not so much. So, depending on who you are and how you learn, sitting here, being attentive, notes at the ready, super productive. If you are somebody who's a bit more neurodivergent, which certainly we've got lots of, then perhaps it would be more helpful for you to listen while you do something else. But even still, that is something you need to know about yourself. If you don't, it is just take a quick note. We're not even ready yet, but we're already talking about ourselves. Take a quick note that you need to figure out how you learn best, right? So I won't go into the ways in which we figure that out. If you need to talk more about that, just message me privately afterwards, because today we are talking about mindset, mentality, and morality. And these are two very necessary things for you to know about yourself, how you can reframe your thoughts, how you can shift your characteristics, your beliefs, and also your morals and ethics. And so, it's already 3:58. Let me see if anybody's on. Okay, good. All right, so I'm just gonna hop right into it because I'm just gonna hop right into it. So when we're thinking about what successful people have, like if you look at your life right now and you're completely, blissfully, perfectly happy, you're probably not subscribed to this school because this is a place where you can figure out what you don't like about your life so you can shift it. You are the thing that needs to shift so your life can change, right? And so, what we need to figure out in the 7 places where we grow physically, mentally, emotionally, sexually, intellectually, financially, spiritually, where are you lacking? Okay, that is the first thing. Because in any of those places, let's say you don't have the money you want, you don't have the love you want, you don't have, I'll put sex in there, love and sex, you don't have the sex you want or the love you want, you don't have the body you want, and maybe you don't have like the spiritual connection that you want. Those are 4 places right away where your mentality has to shift. Now, if you're like, I hate life and living, and that is why I'm here, and I feel sort of deficient in all 7 areas, that means you've got your pick, and probably the best place to start is mentality. Okay, so we're going to talk about that today. So, obviously, let's pull back the curtain. You already know that it's that time to pull the curtain back. That took no time at all. Never does. And again, we are just going to have to deal with the light. Sorry. So let's talk about what successful people have that you don't. Okay. What do they have? Now, when we talk about successful people, I want you to be very mindful. Success, when I say success, what I mean is freedom of time and money. Okay, that is always how I define success. Freedom of time and money. And also getting paid to do what you love to do. Okay, and being in your purpose. So, and getting paid for that. That's what I define success as. Those people have mindset and they have morality. If you see people now, like Jay Shetty, Gary Vee, Tony Robbins, Joyce Meyer, all of these people have two things: mindset and morality. And so the first thing that you need to have a strong mindset is resilience, which we'll talk about. And the second thing that you need to have a strong mindset is, oops, sorry, out of the frame, is what I like to call insane belief. Okay? Insane belief. If you have, for mindset, resilience and belief, you literally, and I do mean literally, can accomplish anything. And I know that because I have these things and I am in a place where I have no right to be. Okay. I have no right. Like, if the parameters around my life got their way, I would be like homeless prostituting somewhere. Like, that's the kind of very serious, heavy weights I have on me. And that's not at all what happens in my life, because I just knew that it wasn't going to. I knew that I was going to win. I was going to help. I knew I was going to teach. I knew I was going to grow. There's no reason why, having only been arrested 5 years ago, I should have a doctorate, a house, a company, any kind of money, any kind of happy relationships, any kind of anything, honestly. But we do. Why? Because I knew that it was possible. So when we think about resilience, the ability to overcome adversity, okay, that's what I'm going to define it as. When we think about resilience and the ability to overcome adversity healthily, okay, now I've done it both ways. I have done it where I have overcome adversity, and what I did was just soldier through and shoulder on through a lot of really difficult stuff. Okay, I've done that, and it's not necessarily very productive. It is something that can work. It is also a survival mode tactic, which was the best I had at the time. When I realized that survival mode tactic got me in a lot of trouble because I just shoved all of my emotions and everything down and never dealt with them, what I realized was that's not real resilience, and it's not really productive. And so what I found is actual resilience comes from two things. Okay? Reframing pain and failure. Now we're going to talk about thoughts and feelings and beliefs and actions. We're going to talk about all those things today, because I'm going to tell you how to shift your mindset. I can already guarantee your mindset needs shifting in one area, if not all areas. Okay. So how do we reframe pain and failure? The first thing, get very realistic about it. What is pain? What is pain? This is a not trick question. If you watched Dr. Sarah yesterday, or if you watched it whenever, she gave you a really great indicator, because pain is a mental construct. Okay, that's the first thing you have to know. Pain is a mental construct. Your brain is the thing that figures out pain. Your body is the thing that assesses and allows damage, right? So if you hurt yourself, what you've done is you physically damaged something, and your brain translates that into pain. So what do we have to get very good at? Damage control, right? We have to get very good at damage control. When we get very good at damage control, we can bounce back from things very productively, effectively, and constructively, right? So I cannot tell you the kind of damage I had to control after I had a huge moral and ethical failing, okay? I can't tell you how much damage had to be controlled there. And the first thing I had to do was reframe pain and failure, because the number one thing I felt was, wow, what a failure at life I am, right? And it's a mental battle as much as it is an emotional battle, as much as it is also for me, it was anyway, a societal battle, because I had a lot of people who were, pointing the finger, mocking, ridiculing, etc. And so I had to really quickly reframe pain and failure. And so how did that go? What did that look like? Let me tell you. Pain, think about the gym. Think about the gym. It is painful until it is not anymore. And so when you get to maybe like 2 weeks in of working out, it stops being painful and it starts being kind of like, okay, emotional and mental pain is not different from that, if you will allow it to not be different than that. And so here's how you reframe it. I'm so thankful. The brain can't, by the way, process thankfulness and anxiety at the same time. So if you are thankful and grateful, you're automatically going to have the ability to shift things within yourself. So I'm so thankful that I care enough for this to hurt. That was the first thing I did, right? So when I kept shoving everything down into metaphorical, like basement rooms in my body, what I effectively did was disconnect, disassociate, and numb myself, right? And this is what we do because we don't want to feel pain. Well, that is not reality, because to feel pain is to grow. So when you become thankful for the pain, you become thankful for the growth. Okay, so number one thing about pain is stop being shocked that you felt it. Right? Stop being shocked. Okay, this is a 3-step process. It's very easy. It's very simple. It's not easy. Okay, this is the 3-step process. Wow, I'm in pain. Stop being shocked about it. We are guaranteed pain in this life because we are meant to grow. It's like, oh, I'm so upset that I lost this person. I lost this thing. I've got a lot of grief here. Yeah, you do. Absolutely you do, because you lost something that you loved. Why are you surprised that you lost? Give myself permission to be upset. Of course I was upset that I was a felon and a sex offender. Of course I was upset that I made stupid life decisions. Like, of course I'm crying in my jail cell. What else would I be doing? Give yourself permission to sink into that pain. Then you're like, oh my God, but it's so heavy. I don't know how to deal with it. It's so heavy. I feel like I'm going to drown in it. Don't go at it alone. Don't go at it alone, because this whole process is a process. And so I say it like it's easy. It's not. When I was going through everything, I had to have a therapist. There was no other reality. So, in part of my embracing my pain was doing it with somebody who could help me embrace it. I'm not saying do this alone. Don't do this alone. Please. Right? Don't do this alone. The people, what do they have? A support system. I'll just put that as a little caveat here, right? We'll get there. We will get there. Oh, out of the frame again. Sorry, guys. So what do they have? They have a support system. They have people, the successful people, the people who are regulated and getting paid to do what they love and have freedom of time and money. They have support. And so while you're going through these things, this gets to when you get to self-regulation. Probably not there yet. You might not be there. Anyway, self-regulation, you can get good at doing this. So now, like, I'm so good. I am so good at reframing pain that I just can do this no problem. No problem. Just easy, easy, easy. So that I don't even feel that kind of hurt so much anymore. I really don't, because it's like I've been there, done that, and I know how to move through it now. I'm going to show you how to do this as well. I'm going to show you how to do this as well. Because part of reframing your mindset is being aware of your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and then your actions. We'll talk about all of them. So first thing to reframe is pain. Stop being shocked about it. Step one, embrace it with help if you need it, right? With safe help, not with crazy friends that just corroborate everything you do, but with people who are actually safe and who actually want you to productively deal with the thing. Then get grateful for the fact that you felt it. Between the difference of being numb and feeling pain, I'd rather feel pain. Most people who have not reframed pain try to shy away from it at all costs. They avoid. When you're in avoidance, right, the reframe of pain is that this is a necessary component to do this. So you get to embrace pain. You're not afraid of it. You're like, I can handle this. Yes, it hurts, but it heals too. I'd rather feel pain than nothing. I'd rather not be numb because that's not real life, right? And I want to just check, see if there's any comments or anything. Okay. Or any questions. There's not, which is good. So reframe pain by not being shocked when it happens, allowing it, embracing it, and then getting grateful. Like, wow, I'm so thankful I loved someone so much that I'm so upset when they're gone. I'm so grateful that even though they're gone, something new is going to come in its place that's even better. For everything you lose, you gain something better. For every closed door, there's a new one that opens. This is why when you trust in that, it gets easier to move through this process. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we need to reframe failure. What is it to fail? To fail is to quit. To fail is to quit. To fail is to quit. To fail is not to stop doing one thing in order to do another. That's not quitting, right? So if you quit one job to go to another job, you didn't fail at that job. You just shifted, you transitioned. That's not quitting, right? What I mean by quit is that you stopped trying. And so, like for me, I had to really think about, do I want to quit life? That was the real thing I had to work on and reframe. The first thing was, I have failed at life. Let me take myself out of the game. And didn't do it. Why? One, I knew there was still a mission to do. I was like, I'm still here for a reason. I'm still here for a season. I've got a mission. Don't know how to do it. Don't know what it is. Know that I am not the one to take myself off the board because I did not create myself. Therefore, I don't get to destroy myself any more than I'd already destroyed myself, right? So pain and failure, if you do not quit, you will not fail. You will get redirected. You will keep growing. You will keep going. You will get to where you need to get. Think about it like if you're on a journey, right? You're going from Maine to Florida and your car, no, You're going from Maine to Florida and you're flying, but you have to emergency land in DC. You're not going to get on another flight for another 3 days. You rent a car. You get all the way down to North Carolina, car craps out on you. You rent a bike. You keep going on the bike. Bike breaks down. You keep walking. Now, again, that's all very, very dramatic. Eventually, you will get there. It may take long. It may be uncomfortable. The road may be hard, but you will get there because you keep moving. Instead of, if when the plane stopped, you stopped, you'll never get to your destination. As long as you keep moving forward, as long as you keep going, you cannot fail. And so, usually, the way out is through. Now, sometimes that can look so daunting. You're like, I don't want to go through it. This is too heavy for me. By which I mean, get back to this. Get back to this. Embrace the pain, which is the heaviness, with help so you don't quit. That is how you get resilience. That's how you overcome adversity. That's the recipe to overcome adversity. I promise you, having done it a lot of different ways, this is the best way to do it. That's the first, getting resilience. The second is insane belief. We're going to talk about how to grow belief because there's a process: thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions. So in order to grow belief, you need your thoughts plus your feelings to equal belief. Okay? You need your thoughts plus your feelings to equal belief. So what does that mean? We're going to talk about thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions, but what you think plus how you feel equals what you believe you are able to accomplish. This is why it works. It's really important to get through this part, because if all you feel is pain and all your thoughts are is, I can't do this, you're going to not do this. Right? Look at it. Failure, this is part of thoughts. I want to quit. Thought. How do you feel? I'm in pain. Everything sucks. My belief is I can't live this life anymore. And guess what? The action is failure. So this is super important because this reframing it, overcoming the adversity, aids the insane belief that yes, I can do it. I can do it. I can get through this. If your thought is, this too shall pass, and your feeling is, how it hurts, but it heals too, then your belief is, I'm going to get through this. And your action is getting through it. It's all a mindset. It's all the mentality. It's all, what do they have? Mindset. That's what they have. That's what they have. They have mindset. They have good morality, which we'll talk about. They have a support system, right? But we're in Mindset 101 for a reason, because mindsets have to shift in order for you to get the life that you want to have. Now, most people don't even know what kind of life they want to have. But if you look around at the life you've got, you can figure out what you don't like and where you want to start shifting. And that's super, super important. So I want to focus on mindset. We'll come back to morals. We'll come back to morality. We'll talk about it this week, but we'll definitely really get into morality and values probably next week. We'll see what we get into today. However, we are going to talk a little bit. Oh, good. We're very good on time. We're going to talk a little bit as far as morals. Resilience has to be part of your moral code. If you value resilience so highly, you will get resilience. This is like the number one determining factor between success and failure, which is, say, quitting. Success being freedom of time and money. So make sure one of your morals is being resilient, or one of your values. we'll talk more about this in a minute. Okay, so let me take a picture of this, and then we will start talking about mindset and how to do this equation of thoughts and feelings equal belief that leads to action. Okay, so let me just take a quick pic of what we've got here. Okay. And let us erase all this beautiful stuff. We'll come back to it. So this is how we shift our mentality. You ready? It is possible, it is necessary, and it, like everything, is formulaic. So we have thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions. Okay, now if you looked in the semester 1 resources for Mindset 101 for week 3, this PowerPoint, a more extended version of, hold on, I'm gonna get a drink. A more extended version of what we're gonna do here is already on the PowerPoint. So you can pull that up if you like, but thoughts create feelings. Feelings create beliefs, and beliefs create action. Now, I'm gonna deconstruct this backwards because the thing that we're really comfortable with is action. It's easy to see. The action is what we do and how we're judged. Okay, this is very easy to see. What we do is the action we've taken, or I could put inaction, right? Which is to say, there's around here. What we don't do. Right, so action is either the action that we do take or what we don't do. As an example, procrastination is an action of inaction, right? Like you're not actually doing the things that you're supposed to do. Well, why? Well, there's a whole way to track it back. There's a whole way to track it back. There's a lot of different reasons perhaps why you procrastinate, which, we can talk about. So your action, let's say like the action of me sending a nude picture, right? That's the action. That's the 10%. This is the iceberg. 10% that I talked about the other. This is the 90%. Okay, this is 90%. This is the stuff nobody sees. This is the stuff that goes on inside of us. Now, in the sending of the nude picture, when people are like, why would you do that? Right? Well, I now know I can track it back. I'm worthless is the belief, right? Who cares? Want to make that person happy? I will say something along the lines of, you can only say no so much, right? Like, there was other things I had said no to, just put it that way. So I was like, oh, this is the thing I can do. Can't do some of the other stuff, right? So there's always a thought that is the basis to the action. Every action that you do, I'm just checking for questions. Every action that you do, every choice that you make actually goes back to something that you are probably subconsciously focusing on and also not aware of, right? So your action probably is the easiest thing to figure out. Sometimes the next easiest thing is feelings. Now, this may or may not be true because a lot of us repress our feelings to the degree that we can't even recognize them, don't even know what they are, don't even know how we feel, right? Like, for me, I repressed to such a degree that I was always fine, even when I wasn't fine. It was the hardest thing in the world for me to say, I'm upset. This hurts, right? I didn't do it. Now I do. I didn't then. And so, with the feeling category, if you are in touch with your feelings, this one's easier, right, to figure out. And so, feelings are emotion, which is to say, energy in motion. Feelings are what we feel in our body, okay? They occur in the body, which, if you've disassociated or disconnected from your body, you're not going to have a good feelings indicator because you don't know what you feel because you're disconnected, right? So if you are struggling ever to feel this, it's because you're physically disconnected. There's a mind-body disconnect, right? So the feeling is both created and internalized. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we create feelings in our heads. In the same way, the body figures out damage and the brain figures out, hey, this is painful. We have a limbic system that is our feelings center. So even though we feel our feelings in the body, we create the thoughts that attract to the emotions in our mind. Now, I know that's a concept that's a little tricky, so let me just break it down for you. What are emotions? Emotions, as a little caveat, emotions exist outside the body. Emotions exist outside of your body. Now, you should be asking, how is that possible? It is the way that if you've ever been in a arena, there's like a feeling that everybody shares. Or if you walk into a place and things feel like uneasy and you feel like ill at ease, it's like it's outside of you. Emotions are created from a source that is not us. Love, light, truth, joy, peace, that exists outside of us. That exists from a source which is outside of us. So emotions exist outside of us. Feelings exist inside of us. Feelings are what we internalize. And so, what happens to bring the two together is thought. Our thoughts attract emotions. Now, think about it like you are a broadcasting tower. Your mind is a broadcasting tower. Thoughts create things. Can't tell you how powerful your brain is to creating reality. Your thoughts that happen in your mind create things. Your thoughts also, as a little caveat here, your thoughts create your speech as well. So what you think will create your reality, and what you say will create your reality. If you've ever heard abracadabra, that means as I speak, I create. And you speak out of what you think. You can't help yourself. So your thoughts, they happen in your mind, they create things, they are often situational. We'll talk about what that means in a second. And also, they are usually like ideas. Okay, so hey, just seeing people pop on. So your thoughts are situational in that they are subject based. So I always use this example. You experience something in your world. I'm going to say math class for 14-year-old Michelina. I experienced math class. That material is foreign to me. I don't like it, right? So what I think in my head, math sucks. That's the thought. It is situational. Because I have this negative thought, which we'll talk about, sort of cognitive bias, our brains are always kind of inherently looking for danger. They're always inherently a little negative, which we'll talk about. But because I think this is hard to understand, that's a thought. This is hard to understand is a thought. Math sucks is a thought. If I think those two things subconsciously for 15 seconds, I'm going to start pulling in emotions on a frequency level that is not the best. And so I'm going to start feeling frustrated, annoyed, potentially angry. So, because I think math sucks, this is hard, because I feel upset, aggravated, frustrated, guess what my beliefs are going to become? Negative. Specifically, I suck at math. Because this is personal. Beliefs are what we personalize. Thoughts are not personal. They're situational. Beliefs are personal. And so, I am or I am not. If you've been in the mental health community for any length of time, you know there's a thing called limiting beliefs. Because limiting beliefs limit you. They are negative. So, I suck at math. Is that an affirming belief or a limiting belief? It's a limiting belief. And limiting beliefs hold you back. And so I can already guarantee, going back to the places that you're not happy in your own life, I can already guarantee if you're not happy, you have a lot of limiting beliefs in that area. Let's take finances. It's an easy one. Money doesn't grow on trees. That's a thought. Let's say that was your parents' thought. You grew up poor or not affluent. Money doesn't grow on trees. Do you think we can afford this? It's too expensive. Those are thoughts based on the external reality that creates those thoughts. The feeling then in you, who is potentially a child, is like upset. You want this thing you can't have. I'm never going to get this. Despondent. So guess what your beliefs are? I can't make money. Money's no good. I hate money. Money is awful. Blah, 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 blah. And guess what the action is going to be? You don't want money. You don't want to make money. You don't want anything to do with money. And so now when you look at your life and you're looking at your finances and you're like, damn, I don't have any money. It's like, yeah, because you hate money. Because you have thoughts that come from 30 years ago that you haven't examined yet. Michelina, can we do this with anything? Absolutely. Absolutely we can. You can literally track this with anything, anywhere, at any time. It will look different for everybody because I don't know what the thoughts were in your reality growing up. If you want to do like a nitty-gritty one-on-one, you have to get coached by me because that's a one-on-one assessment, right? But you can kind of do this too. You've got the tools to do it. If you know, your sex life, you're like, I'm not having the kind of sex I want to have. That's the action, right? Inaction. My sex life isn't where I want it to be. well, how do you feel talking about sex? Uncomfortable. Okay. Why? Sex is dangerous. Where'd that thought come from? Right? It's situational. It's an idea. Where'd that thought come from? Oh, well, I was raped as a kid. Oh, yeah, well, no wonder. Of course, sex is dangerous, makes you feel unsafe. I shouldn't have sex. You don't have sex. You can do this with literally anything. And so this is a super powerful tool. Now, with the beliefs, they are learned. Okay, they are learned. This is why we can unlearn them. The minute you become aware of any belief, you can unlearn it. If you become aware of the fact that you have a lot of limiting beliefs, which most people do when they don't have things that they want, which, let's say, of the 7 places you can grow, all of them are a mess. You're physically not happy, you're mentally not happy, you're emotionally not happy, all the things. Now you can look at each individual category, but the thing you have to look at is your actions and beliefs on yourself. If your entire life is a mess, you need to look at yourself, right? So that's what I had to do. My entire life was a mess. My entire life was a mess, right? I'm sitting in a jail cell. Okay. My entire life was not what I wanted it to be. Did not like where I was living, did not like nothing. Well, what do I think about myself? Tricky. What's my self-image? Tricky, right? This is where all this work for me started, is like, I've got some self-issues here. And so I had to work through those issues pretty quickly. You remember from before, resiliency and also insane belief, right? Had to work through that real quick. So that core limiting belief, so that's another thing, core beliefs we're going to talk about. If you have a core belief that is limiting, everything's a mess. Because you have a core limiting belief about yourself that you function out of. For myself, I'm not lovable. There's something wrong with me. Nobody likes me. Everybody leaves me. Those were fundamental Michelina core wounds. We call those rejection, abandonment wounds, self-worth wounds. Now, I'm not going to go into it here because I have it on YouTube. So if you want to look at bigger wounds, check it out on my YouTube. It's free, right? But those core limiting beliefs are biggies because they're about yourself and that's how you operate. And so, because going back to the nude picture, why did I send it? Because I thought I was worth nothing. Who cares? I have since learned I'm worth everything. Oops, didn't know. So, limiting beliefs can become core beliefs. And that will keep you very, very small. And so we have a lot of people walking around very disempowered because they have very limiting core beliefs. And to figure that out, we have to go back to, okay, well, looking at my life, I don't like anything in it. I'm really unsatisfied. I'm really disconnected. I'm really upset. I'm really depressed. I'm really anxious. Those are all the things. Okay, so life sucks, isn't worth living. You can do this with literally every and anything. And the belief is, I'm not worthy of life. That's not true. We have to excavate that core wound. And so, all that to say, beliefs, this is how beliefs are created. Okay, this is how they can be, if they can be created, guess what? They can be destroyed. You just have to feed new things, right? So, if you want to be resilient and to have insane belief in yourself, you need to radically shift your beliefs, which means you have to radically shift everything around you. And so the first and best way to do that is to shift your thoughts on everything. You need a completely new thought life. This can be tricky because our brains are naturally kind of negative. They're cognitively biased toward keeping us safe. They only care about safety. And so it comes to this is part of the neuroplasticity that Dr. Sarah talked about. Your brain has the ability to change. Let me tell you that that belief, which is a fact, science, not even a belief, it's a fact, which, by the way, there is a difference between beliefs and facts. Beliefs are what you feel to be true for yourself. Facts are what are actually true based on concrete evidence and data, right? And so when we look at the brain, it has the constant capacity to change. And actually, that shifting from a fixed mindset that I can't change to a growth mindset of course I can change is like the number one thing that allows for this whole process. Because if you have a brain that is a fixed mindset, nobody here does because you're here. But if you have a brain that's a fixed mindset, you will never do any of this because you don't think you can change. And you're functioning under a false premise. You're functioning out of a core limiting belief that is, I can't change. That is a lie. Neuroplasticity demonstrates that. We can all change. We can all grow. We have to change. We have to grow. And so that's like in the 7 places we can grow, mindset and mentality, that's a biggie to go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset. So there's a lot, and it could take somebody 6 months to a year to figure out, oh, I actually can change. There are people who will never figure that out. And you know the ones. It's really sad to be around them. It's not fun, right? So your task, if you will, is to figure out where your limiting beliefs are. The process, again, for that, figure out what you're not happy about in your life, make a little chart. Let's say you're not happy about, so like one of the, I have done work on every mental, physical, emotional, every level possible, and I'm still doing work, guys. So you're always, there's always work to be done. But let me say for emotions, right? So for me, for emotions, I was finding that I was still very emotionally dysregulated. And I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that. Right. So what is going on here that I'm still so emotionally dysregulated? Because the action is I cannot control my emotions around X person. Okay, there's just one person that I cannot control my emotions around. Well, guess what? My belief is I can't control my emotions. So guess what? I'm not controlling my emotions. And so the thought was emotions are awful. That was a thought I had. Again, situational. I just didn't like emotion. Emotion scared me. I was like, it feels dangerous to be emotional. And so anytime I was feeling emotion, I was uncomfortable with the emotion. Or you can do this with literally anything, by the way. Okay. So this thoughts, feelings, beliefs, actions are how we shift our mindset. So if you want to get to insane belief and resiliency, to get to resilience, think different thoughts. I know that seems tricky. We'll talk about it. Think different thoughts. To get to insane belief, believe different things. So what do we do? How do we do that? Right? Because feelings follow thoughts and actions follow beliefs. So if you can, and guess where these two start? In the mind, right? If you can if you can pay more attention to these two, thoughts and beliefs, you can radically shift everything else. So what do? How do you do that? Well, you pick one premise, one overarching theme in your life, and you start paying attention to it. You can't change all of it too much at once, right? But what I had to do was I realized I had an I can't mentality. That's a huge core wound. That's a victim mentality all over the place. I had a huge I can't mentality. And what I had to shift it with was maybe I can't, but God can. That's what I had to do. That was where because it has to be believable. It has to be something you actually believe. And I do believe that. So that's an easy thing to shift, right? Now I could, because my belief again was I can't. That was the fundamental mentality I was functioning out. I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't. Well, first, I became very aware of all the places I was doing that. I was like, oh my God, it's everywhere. The I can't mentality is pervasive. It was in my workouts, it was in my food, it was in my relationships, it was in like everything, except for the things I knew I could, right? School, I knew I could do that. And so I had a strong I can't belief. And instead of shifting it to, of course I can, because I didn't believe that. I was like, okay, I cannot, but God can. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Bang. Now we've got a new belief in place. Now we have a new thought system in place. So now we have a different way of approaching things. You need to find, and again, I can help you with this, where your pervasive mentality lies. Like, what's the core things holding you back? And is it that you're not good enough, right? That's the I can't mentality is I'm not good enough mentality. If you have perfectionism, you probably have the I'm not good enough. It's a self-worth wound. Most of these things are, right? And so really paying attention to the pervasive beliefs and the thoughts will bring you into why you're holding yourself back. And so to grow your resilience, pay attention to your thoughts. To grow your belief, you also have to pay attention to your thoughts, but you need to reframe lots of things. Pain and failure to start. You reframe pain and failure, like we talked about at the beginning, you will be able to bounce through things much more productively, much more effectively. Okay, so those are the two of the three things that they have that you don't. Okay, so I'm gonna take another picture of this and then we're gonna talk about, we talked a lot about mindset, we're gonna talk more about it. Obviously, we're in Mindset 101. I wanna talk a little bit about morals, how we can make those happen. Let me take a quick picture so that I can put this up for you guys later. Hopefully you took notes. Okay. Getting snaps and all types of things over here. And so, if you're just hopping on, we are talking about what the successful people have that if you don't feel successful, you don't. And if you are here, you probably want more success than you've gotten. So we talked about the three things what successful people have that you don't. Mindset is one, reframing pain and failure, and morality is two. Let's talk about, I said mindset, we just talked all about. Let's talk about morality. Because morality is super important and also having to do with our value system, our character, and our personality. Because mindset frames and colors everything, but character matters also. Your mindset plus your morality, plus remember I mentioned the support system, ends up bringing us to who you are. Okay, these are the things that make up who you are. It's all you've got. All you've got are your thoughts, emotions, beliefs. That's all you can control. Okay, so if you get really good at mindset and morality, you can get really good. And of course, yes, your body, your physical body, you can control that, but your mind controls your body. So if you think I can't work out, you're not going to go work out. If you have no emotional regulation, you're going to like start punching a window, right? Like a lot of things. So when we talk about morality, and this is going to go into next week too. We talked about personality last week, right? Whether you're introverted or extroverted, what that means for you, your character profile, perhaps, all of those things become your personality. All of these things kind of make up your character. But when we're thinking about morality, the definition is having to do with the standards of behavior that you deem acceptable or not acceptable, right? So this is very important. And you'll see why this goes hand in hand with what we just talked about. Because if you have an I can't mentality, as I did, then your morality is different because you don't hold yourself to the high standard of, yes, I can, right? And so this is why we have a lot of people who have no standards. And because they have no standards, they make very poor decisions. My mindset was, I'm a worthless piece of crap. So what did I act like? A worthless piece of crap. Not always, not all the time. But I'm thinking specifically in one moral ethical failing of sending pictures that I shouldn't have sent, right? And so when you think differently, your morality shifts because now you don't have a tolerance for nonsense. You're like, no, it doesn't mean you don't love people. And it doesn't mean that you don't meet people where they're at. And it definitely doesn't mean that you judge them. Because this is what happens a lot of times is that once someone comes out of the hole, they look down at the people in the hole and they're like, ha ha, no, 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 we don't want to do that. But whatever standards we set for ourselves in our thought process, in our beliefs, that will start to play out in our moral system. So, as an example for me, when I started, so I have had every wound you could possibly imagine, okay? So I also had a people wound. And my thought about people were people are mean. They're not nice. People are dangerous. People are out to get you, right? Because I had a rejection abandonment wound, so I could never rely on anybody, which was a belief. I can't rely on anybody. I don't like people. People don't like me, right? Those are all the beliefs. Let me tell you when I tell you about how negative of a mindset I had that people don't realize. I think only my mother really realizes the transition and the transformation. She talks to me now and she's like, I am so proud of you. I'm like, you were also proud of me when I was a nightmare, but okay, moms. Anyway, so when you have a different mindset, your standards for yourself shift. So when I realized, like, oh, people actually, my thoughts changed first. And again, I go back to Christendom all the time. But I was like, shit, Jesus died to save these people. They can't be that bad. Right? Like that's Michelina's thoughts, right? I'm not saying anything other than those are my thoughts. And I was like, well, people are people. People are doing the best they can with what they've got. People mean well. They don't always do well. Guess what changed? Everything. The way I treated myself, the way I treated people, the way I thought about people, the way I interacted with people, like the way I connected with people, everything changed when I was changing my thoughts on the people. Money, same thing. Money's great. I love money. Why wouldn't I want money? Money's wonderful. Money loves me and I love money. Money started to come. And so when we change our thoughts, our feelings, our beliefs, and our actions, we automatically change our standards of behavior because the actions have to do with how we act and how we make choices, which has to do with our moral value character system. And so we're going to get more into what you value, what your moral, not high ground is, but your moral values system is. What are your standards of behavior? You know, a lot of the times when we have a lot of wounds that we function out of, we are not actually functioning or making decisions out of morality or character. We're actually making them out of fear, which we'll talk about more next week. But this is why it's so important to figure out who you are so that you're not making decisions based on being afraid. You're making decisions based on this is who I am and this is what I stand for. It's a very different energy. It's a super different energy to make decisions out of this is just how I show up versus, oh, I'm so scared to do this thing. I'm not going to do it. Right? And so we'll talk. There's a lot of values. I have attached on semester 1 resources a values quiz. That is not mine. I like it though. It is kind of a whirlwind. It will have you picking values, and it does a great job of like delimiting so many different little values and like their definitions and nuances. We'll talk about it more next week. But you can't prioritize every value at the beginning of like the growth healing journey. So like for me, I've actually tracked it, but for me, and I'll talk about it next week, but I tracked like peace was the first thing. I was living with a narcissist. He was trying to rile me up all the time. And I was like, I am not doing it. You lose your peace, you lose your power. I refuse. And I got very good at that. Then I moved on to love. I started doing that. Now I realize I have to go and do it again at deeper levels. Deeper. It's like a spiral. You'll see this with Bianca's class. Spiral, connection. Keep digging down further. But we'll talk about it next week as well. What the successful people have is a mindset that is a winning mindset and a moral code that is perfectly in alignment for them. Now, again, everybody has different values that they value. You might value family over, I hesitate to say family as a value, but I'll say it just for conversation's sake. But if you value family, wow, I actually had this conversation with someone the other day. I was going to say if you value family over work, then I was like, I don't love that. And then I was going to say family over mission, but I was like, no, because your family could be your mission, right? So there's that. So I don't like to use family as a concept because it's tricky because you're valuing something that is a very intense, complex dynamic. So I don't like to say valuing family because it's not actually a value, which people don't want to hear, but I don't care. It's not actually a value. A value is responsibility. A value is peace. A value is diligence. A value, those are values. Now they play out in your family dynamic and the role that you have. Right. All right. Like I said, we'll talk about this more in the weeks to come, but because all you can do is control yourself. But whatever you allow, whatever you value, you bring into everywhere you go. And if you're functioning out of fear and not out of authenticity, then what you're bringing is trauma everywhere you go. And maybe it worked, but we know it doesn't work in the long run. It's not really sustainable. And so like for myself, I was afraid of people. And so I was like, never getting married. Well, guess what? That's out of a fear-based state. Like, okay, if I choose not to get married, it has to be out of an empowered state, out of a place of like, you know what? I just don't really want this for myself. Not, I'm afraid of what's going to happen if I partner up with someone and they hurt me and leave me. See how that goes? So it's a subtle distinction perhaps, but it's an important one, and it's intentional, and intentionality is important. And so we will talk more about morality, values, how it plays into character and personality, how to shift your values, how to actually make sure you're functioning and living out of said values. That was another thing that I learned the hard way. Thought I was doing X, Y, and Z values. It wasn't. Was not. We'll talk about that next week though. So let me check very quickly if there are any questions. There are not. Okay, cool. And so with that being said, I hope that you get a very good understanding of mindset and how it actually can shift, does shift, how thoughts are created, how beliefs are created. Remember, thoughts create feelings, feelings create beliefs, beliefs create action. What creates thoughts? How you interact with your external reality. And so if you want to change your thoughts, stop worrying about your external reality and start getting very strong in yourself, right? It's like, oh, this thing happened. It's okay. This too shall pass. That's a different thought. It's a different thought. It's a different way of interacting with the world, right? So we let our external reality shape us. And instead, what we have to do is we have to show up differently and let our reality show up in kind. It's really powerful stuff when we get there. So I hope this is all really interesting to you, really helpful to you, and really worthwhile. I will attach all the notes in the resources. The values quiz is there. Take it for next week. It's going to be important so that you have it. Take it for next week. And also, I attached the PowerPoint, which has ways to work through limiting beliefs. It has a thought, feeling, belief, action chart on there. So there's a lot of extra resources in the resource section. So go check that out. And I will see you next week for values, morality, character, etc. And if you have any questions, just shoot me a direct message on Mighty Networks or comment in the community and someone on the team will answer and will help you out. Okay, guys, great job today. I will see you on the next class.